Hello, and welcome to the Hmis RHY Training. Right now, we are looking at the agenda. So I'm going to read the intro at the top of the page. Effective April 2015, Runaway and Homeless Youth grantees are required to collect data on all youth served in their continuum of care, designated Homeless Management Information System application. All RHY grantees, including street outreach, basic center, transitional living, and maternity group home programs must collect their data in Hmis. Basic center programs need to record data for youth served in emergency shelter, as well as youth who are provided services outside of the shelter system. In addition to collecting data in Hmis, RHY grantees must upload their data twice a year using the RHY Hmis repository website. Data uploads occur during specific periods in the spring and fall. The collection and reporting of data by RHY grantees is governed by the Runaway and Homeless Youth Act and accompanying regulations. Okay, and that can be found at the very top of this agenda. Next, I'm going to go over the entire agenda for today. So we will be going over the intake and admission, profile, services, and discharge. We will also go over a few reports. And then at the very end, I will show you our resources. So I'm going to first start off with the intake admission. One thing I do want to say when using the system, you want to use a web browser, Google Chrome or Firefox. This is the awards URL. So I'm going to switch screens. Okay, I will be using the Training RHY Transitional Living program. First, before we do anything, we want to do a consumer lookup. So what we would do, we would go here. I'm going to type in a generic name. I am using a training program and a training account. You can practice in any of the training programs before entering live information into your real program. So we're going to do a consumer lookup before doing an intake. Okay, I'm going to type in Bob Smith and I'm going to do search. Okay, because I have access to these training programs, this information will appear. So from left to right, you'll have the clone feature, personal ID, awards UUID, awards ID. Then you'll have name, social security number, date of birth, gender identity, race, and status. And like I said, because I have access to all of these training programs, I am able to see the social security number and date of birth. If I did not have access to these programs, they would be blurred out. Okay, so this is how you do a consumer lookup. It looks like this consumer is not in any of the RHY programs. So I'm going to go ahead and do an intake on this consumer. So I'm going to go home again. Make sure I'm in the right program. Intake admission. I'm going to press continue. Create new application. Okay, so this is what the intake form looks like for the RHY Transitional Living program. So I'm going to go ahead and begin. I'm going to enter the intake date. Anything with the red asterisk must be filled in. I'm going to put the consumer in a bed. It'll have vacant units. I'll select this first option. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and enter his name. It'll have name, data quality, full name reported, social security number. If you do not have the social security number, you can put 99 as a placeholder. And because this is not his real social security number, I'm going to put approximate or partial. You do have a few options when it comes to gender. You have female, a gender that is not singularly female or male, questioning, transgender. So I'm going to put Bob identifies as male, sexual orientation, birthday, I'm going to just make up a date. Ethnicity, you have non-Hispanic, non-Latina, Latino, or Latinx. And then you have Hispanic, Latina, Latino, Latinx. When it comes to race, you can select multiple options. Veteran status, it's either yes or no. You have prior living situation. So you have a few options: homeless situations, institutional situations, temporary and permanent housing situations, and unknown options. Okay. Length of stay in prior living situation, I'm going to put 90 days or more. Approximate date homelessness started. Okay. The next question is, regardless of where they stayed last night, number of times the client has been on the streets, any emergency shelter or safe haven in the past 3 years. I'm going to put 4 more times. Total number of months homeless on the street, any emergency shelter or safe haven in the past 3 years. Okay, right now it does say this person is not chronically homeless. It is auto-calculated. So I'm going to continue. Income from any source, I'm going to put no for all of these options. If I did put yes, I would have to check off the income and then enter the correct amount. No for this as well. Covered by health insurance, if I put no, it blurs out. But if I put yes, I would have to fill this in. Okay, now we are on the special needs portion. So basically this question is asking, when it comes to special needs, do any of these special needs affect their day-to-day life? Does this affect their income and their housing? So you do have the options of physical disability, developmental disability, chronic health condition, HIV/AIDS, mental health disorder, substance use disorder, and disabling condition, but this will auto-calculate. So I'm gonna put no for this. As you can see, developmental disability and HIV/AIDS are blocked out. I mean, only have one question. Okay, you do not have a follow-up question, whereas physical disability, if I put yes here, I do have to answer this question right here. And the question is expected to be of long continued and indefinite duration and substantially impairs ability to live independently. Okay, so I'm going to put yes for that. I'm going to go ahead and fill in the rest. I'm going to say this consumer does have an alcohol and drug abuse. Okay, so yes, this person does have a disabling condition. Okay, last grade completed. Okay, I'm going to put grade 12, graduate from high school. And yes, they are employed. If you put yes, it has to be, you have to select these options. If you select no, it'll ask you why are they not employed. General health status. You have options ranging from excellent to poor. So I'm going to put very good. Dental health status, the same options. I'm going to put very good for this. And then mental health status, I'm going to put the same thing. Is this consumer currently pregnant? No. Formerly a ward of child welfare or foster care agency. If I put yes, I have to put how many years. If I put less than 1 year, how many months? Formerly a ward of the juvenile justice system. If I put yes, it's the same question. How many number of years? If I put less than 1 year, I have to put how many months? Family critical issues. So you can check off any of these options that apply to your consumer, or you can put none of the above. Then RHY referral source. I'm going to say self-referral, but you do have multiple options like the hotline, mental hospital, outreach program, an individual, school, law enforcement, things like that. So I'm going to just select self-referral. Okay, the next thing with the red asterisk is individual family type. So this Bob says that he is an individual male. He does not have any children or a spouse. So that's what I'm going to put, individual male, but you do have multiple options. Current student, I'm going to put no. And receive vocational training. I'm going to put no for that as well. Okay, marital status, single. All right. And then services sought. So this person, Bob, came for shelter and housing and also drug treatment. Okay. I'm going to select housing admission. So I'm going to click this at the very bottom. If I missed a step or didn't fill anything out with the red asterisk, it won't let me pass. So I'm going to select this option and we'll see if it goes through. Okay, great, it did. So it went through and now it's asking me, Bob is currently not in a household. We like to create a new household or join an existing household. So Bob is by himself and he's never been in this program. So I'm gonna put create a new household and press continue. Would you like to add another member? I'm gonna say no and continue. Okay. I'm gonna go back to the face sheet. Okay, so this is what the face sheet looks like. I'm going to show you how to get here another way. So if we start from the home button, census, and then profile and face sheet. Bob Smith is here. Roster archives means any consumer that has been discharged from the program. If you want to see the record, so it looks like no one has been discharged from this program, but usually there'd be a drop down of names. I'm going to press continue. Okay, so this is Bob's face sheet. Everything that we just entered on his intake form will appear on this form. Okay. I also want to point out a few things. If you ever need to update information, you would want to just scroll down. It says update HMIS info. There's a page break for each section. If you ever need to edit or update anything in this, their information, just go down to that section and press update. Okay. So I'm gonna scroll back to the top. Another thing I want to point out that I'm going to show you in another program. Okay, so if you are a RHY Basic Center program, there is a question that you must answer in the intake form. So I'm going to go to that. Okay, so it does ask you RHY BCP status. So date of status determination. Youth eligible for RHY services. So it's either yes or no. If it's no, reason why services are not funded by BCP grant. Okay, out of range, age range, what are the state, what are the criminal justice system? If you put no, if you put yes, okay. So that is the difference. Okay, so this question did not appear on the transitional housing program that we were just looking at. Okay, that wasn't one of the questions on the intake form, but when it comes to this particular question, it will appear in the BCP program. So that is your program type. That question will be required. Also, another question. In the street outreach intake form that did not appear on the original program that we were using. Okay, when it comes to street outreach. Okay, it will ask you the current living situation. It did not ask us that before on the transitional living program. On the transitional living program, it only asks us the prior living situation. Whereas the street outreach, it's asking us their current living situation. You do have the same options: homeless situation, institutional situation, temporary and permanent housing situation. So there's the same options, but it's just asking you, is it a current living situation? Okay, so these are the differences on the intake forms for these programs. This is the street outreach program. So that question will appear here. And it will be a requirement. Okay, so I'm gonna go back. Okay, so this is the face sheet. So now let's go to the services And I want to show you guys the context log. So in order to do that, we want to go home, charts, services individual, and we want to go to context log. You want to make sure we're using the correct consumer. Also, roster archives is here as well if you want to look at any discharge consumers. But I'm going to press continue. Okay, so no one has written any context logs for this, for Bob. Okay, so at the top it'll have the consumer's name, the program, worker, so your name will appear here, date range, and admission. I'm going to press continue. Okay, so at the very top, it'll have a few red asterisks. So I'm going to put the start time. The conversation lasted about an hour. So the end time will auto calculate. Yes, it was face-to-face and it was at this program site. I'm going to leave this to case care management. There's more broad. Okay, and when it comes to services, it will have a list of services that you can provide for your consumer. There is a RHY section, so RHY education, life skills training, things like that. Okay, so I'm going to check off the RHY substance use disorder treatment because we did say that the consumer did have an alcohol and drug disorder. So I'm going to check that off. The first column is units and the second column is cost. So I'm going to put 1 unit and however much it costs when it comes to funding, how much money they would use in order to provide this treatment. Then you want to type in any details. It's not a requirement, but anything, any details about the payment, the treatment, anything like that, you can put here. And then you want to put the funding. You do have a long list to choose from. Please make sure you select the correct funding source. If you do leave it at unknown and it's time to run reports, you know, sometimes that information will not be pulled correctly because you did not select the correct funding source. Okay, so please make sure that whatever funding source you have applies and you put that here. Okay. So case care management. All right. If you provide a food bag, say that costs, for example, $10 worth of funding. All right. Criminal justice legal services. You put how much funding was used to provide those legal services and any details about that conversation. Life skills training. Okay. So when it comes to context logs, you want to make sure you're filling out the service, the unit, the cost, any details about that service, and then you want to put the funding source. So you want to work from left to right. Once that's complete, you want to scroll to the bottom and press continue. Okay, so when it comes to context logs, as we saw only at the top of the page, there was a red asterisk. Everything at the bottom, you have to fill in. There isn't a right or wrong answer, but you do have to fill in the services you provided. So when it's time to run reports, that information is being pulled correctly. Okay, so that's how you write a context log. You can only edit your own contacts log. You can't edit someone else's note. So please be mindful of that. You can only edit your own note. So once you are done with the contacts log, now I want to show you guys how to discharge your consumer. There is a process to this. So you want to process the discharge, and then you have to complete a RHY aftercare plan form. Okay, there's a two-step process to this. So I'm going to process discharge. I want to select current program roster and continue. Select the correct consumer. Continue again. Okay, discharge date. Anything with the red asterisk must be filled in order to process this discharge. Most of this information is already filled in because it is being pulled from the intake form. Okay. I'm going to put no to this question. We do have a few follow-up questions. I'm afraid to leave work, quit/leave work due to threats of violence to yourself, family, or friends. I'm going to put no. Ever promised work where work or payment different than you expected? No. Counseling. So is the counseling received by the client? We're going to put yes. If identified yes, what kind of counseling was received? I'm going to put individual. If yes, identify the number of sessions received by exit. So I'm going to put 3 sessions. A plan is in place to start or continue counseling after exit. I'm going to put yes for this as well. Safe and appropriate exit is the next section. Is the exit destination safe? I'm going to put yes. As determined by the client. As determined by the project and caseworker, I'm going to put yes. Client has permanent positive adult connections outside of program. Yes. Client has permanent positive peer connections outside of project. Client has permanent positive community connections outside of project. Last grade completed. Okay, this person graduated from high school, so this is all filled in. Project completion status. You have the option of completed project, youth voluntarily left early, or youth was expelled. So I'm going to put this, Bob completed the project. Destination, I'm going to say this person is a rental by client, and they are staying, you can't select any county. Okay, so everything with a red asterisk was filled in. You also have discharge notes. So if you want to fill in any of these notes, you can. It is not required, but I do highly suggest that part. And I'm going to press apply. Total number of sessions. So something I did not fill out right. Total number of sessions planned is required when a plan is in place. Okay. So I'm going to go back up. Okay, make sure everything's filled in. Okay, let's try this again. All right, so it went through. Now this person has been discharged from the program. Now I'm going to go and complete the form. Okay, census, discharge, forms, RHY aftercare plans. Okay, consumer. I'm going to press continue. Update RHY aftercare plans section. So was aftercare was provided? I'm going to put yes. If yes, identify the primary way it was provided. So I'm going to say it's via telephone. Okay, and I'm going to press save. Okay, so now that is complete. We have completed the process. I'm going to go back to our agenda. Okay, so we went over the intake admission. We did a consumer lookup. We went to the profile and looked at face sheet. We did a context log for that consumer, and we discharged the consumer. We did do the aftercare plan. I just want to mention a few notes. The RHY aftercare plans are required for all heads of household and adults in all runaway and homeless youth projects, except for street outreach clients. Aftercare plans should be completed for each person within 180 days after they have been discharged. Aftercare plans completed before discharge or more than 100 days after discharge will not be included in the RHY CSV export. Okay, I just want to make that clear. And now I'm going to go over a few reports. I'm going to start off with the demographics report builder. So I'm going to go back and share my screen. Demographics report builder and HMIS report builder are very similar. The first one we will look at, this report will assist you in identifying which consumers are missing the aftercare plan. Okay, that's a demographics report builder. And then the HMIS report builder. This report will assist you in identifying which consumers are missing RHY information at discharge. So I'm going to go ahead and share my change screens again. So I'm going to go to reports. Make sure I'm on all. Demographics report builder. Okay, you have to select the date range that you are looking for. Okay, I'm going to press continue. Okay, so I'm going to look at the aftercare plan. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, all I did was press Control F and typed in aftercare. You open that up. So all forms can be found on the demographics report builder. Okay, so I'm gonna check off all of these options. These will all be pulled from the RHY aftercare plan form that you complete at discharge. And now I'm gonna go back to the top and maybe select name and personal ID. And then maybe intake date. Okay, and now I'm going to press continue. Okay, I want to show individual detail. I'm going to leave it organized like this. I'm going to sort it by name. Okay, and I don't want to filter anything right now. So I'm going to press display report and we'll see what appears. Okay, so these are the consumers in the program. Right now, it looks like the only person with an aftercare plan filled out is Bob Smith, and that's the consumer we just entered. Okay, but as you can see, these 3 consumers do not have that information filled in, and that's why it's blank. Okay, but also we can see these consumers are not discharged. So there's an intake, but this consumer has not been discharged at the program, and this would explain why they do not have an aftercare plan filled out. Okay, so anytime you discharge a consumer, you want to fill out that RHY aftercare plan. So right now, if I had ran this for a live program and this was the information, I would think this is okay. We're on track. Everyone is accounted for. You can turn this into an Excel file if you'd like. Okay. So this is how you would use a demographic support builder to show who has their RHY aftercare plan filled out, who's discharged, and who is still actively in the program. All I did, I selected the name, personal ID, discharge date, intake date, and then I'm pulling this information from these last 4 columns from the RHY aftercare plan form. And right now there are only 4 people who are currently in the program between these dates. Okay. The next report I want to run is the HMIS report builder. So I go to search bar, make sure it's on all, and HMIS report builder. All right, so I'm going to change this date, make sure it's the correct program. Okay, so I want to go to the discharge section. Okay, and I want to see if there's any missing RHY information at discharge. Okay, so I'm going to check these off. I'm going to check all. And I can check all for this as well. This is program specific data elements. Okay. So I'm going to check these off, or I'm going to check off anything that I want to see. I want to see if this information is filled out properly. Okay, and then I'm going to scroll up, and again, I'm going to look for name and personal ID. And maybe I'll add discharge date. So I'm going to press continue. I want to show individual detail, and I want to sort it by name. I don't want to filter anything right now. And you can press show order field list. So if you want to organize it, I'm going to move personal ID right behind name. And I'm going to press display report. Okay, so there are, okay, the same 4 people that we looked at the other report. So Bob is the only person who has been discharged. We do know that from the last report. Okay, discharge date. And so we want to make sure all the RHY information on the discharge form was completed. So that's everything that's been checked off right here. So as we can see, nothing is blank. Okay, except this, RHY project completion status, major reason. And then type of employment. Okay, I do remember selecting no for this because we said, why are they not employed? And we said we were looking for work. So if you want to edit this information, you can go home, discharge, discharges from, select Bob, and we want to make sure all this information is filled in. Okay. So we did select employment status was no, and looking for work. So that is filled in. Okay, so I'm just going to reapply that again, just to upload it just to see if any of that information will change. So that's how you will correct that information. If you're running a report and you have some blanks on the discharge form, just go back to that particular consumer and go to that section. Make sure it's filled in. If it's not, you can select the correct information and go down to the bottom of the page and press apply. You can find all that information under reports. So we just ran the HMIS report builder and the demographics report builder. Next, we're going to run the HMIS data quality report. Okay, so we want to run it for this program. Make sure you put the correct date and press continue. So the HMIS data quality report will show you if you have any errors within the program. So if you miss any of the red asterisks, it will be pulled here. If you put any client doesn't know, client refused, or data not collected, it will appear on this report as well. Okay, so this isn't that bad. I will go through each section and point out the errors. There were, as we know, after running those reports, there's only 4 people who are actively in the program, or 4 people who have been entered into the program within this time frame. So numbers will be really low. So it says total number of persons served, 4. Okay, so number of persons with unknown age. That's something to look out for. That means there's someone in the program who the system can't tell how old they are. So that would mean a person with unknown age. Okay, number of adult stayers, veterans, youth under 25, adult head of household. And another thing to look at, number of child and unknown age head of household. So there's a child in the program or a person with an unknown age. On the admission form, you do put their birthday, and maybe you skip that part or put client doesn't know or something like that. That is where this will appear. The system cannot tell how old this person is. Right now that's at 0, so that's great. Okay, Q2, personally identifiable information. So this is pulled from the admission form as well. So demographic information like name, social security number, date of birth, race, ethnicity, and gender. Okay, so if you do select client doesn't know or refused, it will appear here. Any information missing, it will appear here. Okay, so these are great numbers, zeros. We don't want the numbers any higher than 4 or 5. Okay, once it gets past 5, that's a red flag. But right now, these numbers are okay. You can correct these issues on the intake form. Remember, when you're filling out the intake form, you had the name. It's at the very top of the page. So demographic information is at the very top, the very beginning of the intake form. Universal data elements. So again, these numbers are pretty low. You have veteran status, project start date. Okay. Relationship to head of household. There is one error for that. Client location, there shouldn't be an error for your client location because that is pre-filled. So if you do have an error for that, or not pre-filled, but pre-calculated. So if there is a client location error, please send a help desk message for that so we can take a look at it. Okay. And I will show you how to send a help desk message at the end of the training. And then again, disabling condition. So that can all be found on universal data elements. Okay, in order to correct an error, you can just click on this one right here, or the number that's blue and underlined, you click on that. All right, this consumer. So I'm gonna highlight the personal ID, copy. All right, I'm gonna do a consumer lookup on this person. They said they had a household error. So all I did was highlight and paste the personal ID in the search bar. The name does appear. Click on the name and we want to go to the face sheet and household composition. Okay, so as we can see, this person has not been entered into a household. And so when that happens, that will be flagged on your report. So you want to make sure you enter everyone into a household. Okay, so I'm gonna press create a new household and continue. Okay, so that will fix that error for us. I'll go back. So when we run this report again, that 1 will turn into a 0. Income and housing data quality. So destination and income and sources of exit are pulled from the discharge form. Income and sources at start is pulled from the intake form. So start means intake admission, and then income and sources at annual assessment. So this annual assessment does have a 3. So let's check that out. I'm going to press on the 3. Let's go to this consumer again. We already have him pulled up. Do another consumer lookup. Okay, so let's scroll down. So this person, there was an intake on 3/11/2020. So that means there needs to be an annual update. I'm going to press update Hmis info. So what I suggest is past that date. So 3/11/2021. All right. So if there's any information that needs to be updated, this person has been in the program for a year and a few months. So you want to update any information, any income, health insurance, things like that. If none of that has changed, you want to scroll to the bottom and press update. Okay. So when we run that report again, that number should go down to 2 instead of 3. Okay, and that is for this consumer. And so you just want to go through this list and do the same thing. You can just highlight that personal ID, copy, and paste. and go through the same process. All right, so that is how you do an annual update, an annual assessment. We really don't want those numbers getting higher than 5 either, because once that gets out of control, it's very hard to get those numbers back down, especially for this particular section. Okay, Q5, you have chronic homelessness. Okay, so these numbers are pretty good for this program. So missing time in institution, missing time in housing, approximate date started, number of times, number of months. So I can show you exactly where this is being pulled from. So I'm going to go back to, I'm just going to use this person for an example. I'm going to go to the admission form. Okay, so that information, this information is being pulled from right here. Okay, chronically homeless. So if this is not filled in, sometimes it is left blank. Sometimes you put client doesn't know or client refused, things like that. It will appear right there in that section under Q5. So we want to make sure we're entering accurate information here. And then timeliness. So how long is it taking you and your staff to enter information into the system? Number of project start records and number of project exit records. So how long is it taking you to do an intake and how long is it taking you to do a discharge? So if it's taking you longer than 7 to 10 days, it will appear in this section right here. It looks like most people, it takes about a day, or the same day, I should say. And in this one right here, it takes a day. You can click on the consumer to see. Okay, so this person took a day for the information to be entered. All right, so that is what timeliness means. Okay, so that is the HMIS data quality report. Again, when you click on any number, it'll drop down to the bottom of the page and it will show you exactly the consumers in that section who have errors or red flags. Okay, so that is the end of the report section. Next, I want to show you guys the awards online help. If you do have any questions after watching this training or any questions about your own particular program, you can go to help right here, awards online help. Okay, you can, anything that you're looking for can be found here. If you can't find it, if you have, here's content. So if I click on intake admission, all right, that can be found here. It will open up and drop down into smaller sections. Index, it's the same thing, it's just organized a little differently. And search, if you can't find what you're looking for, I'm just going to type in RHY. Okay, so anything with the phrase RHY in the document or section, it will appear here. So I'm going to click on HMIS data standards. Okay, so RHY data elements for 2022. There have been some new updates and I did go over that today in the training. So if you do need to see that again, you can go to RHY data elements. It is a video, it's about 2 minutes long. Okay. So that's about it for this Word document. Okay. And I found that by going to search, typing in RHY, and then clicking on HMIS data standards. And I clicked on the 2022 update. Okay. The last thing I want to show you guys, I'm going to go back to the agenda. Okay, so here is our YouTube channel. This is the link for that. Our website, njhousing.gov, RHY resources, and then the RHY HMIS online service desk. So that's www.rhyhmisservicedesk.net. Okay, www.rhyhtac.net, RHY-HMIS. So if you want to pause the video, you can see these links. If you need extra resources, definitely please use one of these links for more information. That is the end of the training. Okay, this is the agenda. RHY HMIS training. This is the end. Thank you guys so much and have a great day.